guys and welcome to today's video. Today's video is a Foundation Nation video on the C.Y.O Long Lasting Life-Proof Foundation. I haven't done a Foundation Nation in quite a few months and I was supposed to be doing like one a month to keep it on the regular, but it's been a while. It's been off my radar, it's not been at the top of my priority list. But here we come back with the C.Y.O Long Lasting Life-Proof Foundation. I've got mine in the shade 103. This foundation retails for about £7.50. You can get it exclusively at Boots, any Boots store, Boots online, or you can get it on C.Y.O website. First, I want to just talk about the packaging because I feel like this is a very innovative style packaging. Not that it's anything new, but I'm kind of glad that it's like this. This is actually an airless pump. So as you can see, the pump travels upwards, and with an airless pump you're going to get every single milliliter, every single ounce of product out of the tube. It's a clear packaging, so the shade that you can see there, it's very true to its shade when it comes out the pump. Like I said, it is a pump foundation, which is great because you can sort of portion the size that you want to come out of it. I do really love the airless pump. I find that I'm not having to get like a spatula to try and get all the product out when it's finished. It's just when it's finished, you know. I'm quite happy about that, and I quite like that it's transparent as well because I can truly see the shade, and I know that putting it up to my face is enough if there's no swatches. I quite like to be able to see the colour of it. I don't like to be sort of fooled into buying a different shade that it's not, you know. The only bad thing is, I would say, about this packaging is that it is quite cheap. It's quite simple and quite cheap looking. However, for me, it doesn't really matter. Like I'm very packaging orientated when it comes to things like eyeshadow palettes and lipsticks, but for me a foundation, I don't know, like I appreciate good packaging on a foundation, but I'm not overly bothered. I'm more excited about what's inside of it, whereas eyeshadow palettes and things like that, I get very much sucked into how things look. This foundation comes in 15 shades. It's not the best shade range, I won't lie. I'll put the shade range here. Like I said, I'm in the shade 103, which is the third lightest shade in the shade range. The shade range is more light to medium. There are some, you know, 3 deep shades. I don't even think you can call them deep dark, if I'm honest. I think they're more medium to dark. They're not deep. The shade range isn't that spectacular, and it's a shame. It's a shame because I feel like in this day and age, a £7.50 foundation should be made available to an assorted amount of people, not just medium, you know. There are a lot of claims to this foundation, so I'm going to put them all here. Just shimmy to your left. The claims are that it's a medium coverage, it has a 24-hour shift, so it stays on for 24 hours. It feels light, looks smooth, never cakey, it lasts all day, skin feels moisturised, skin feels flawless yet natural, and it's transfer and smudge proof, and it is comfortable to wear. It's a lot of claims. It's a lot of claims on a foundation, and I'd be inclined to say that, you know, some of them are true. Like, a lot of them are true. I definitely say that this is a medium coverage foundation. Medium coverage foundations are my favourite, personally. I feel like full coverage can sometimes look a little bit cake face on me, and that's not what I like. I love a medium foundation where it blends, covers, it doesn't look too full on. It does feel light and it does look smooth. That is definitely something that it does do. It does say never cakey. Now, I'll show you in the clips later on, but I do feel like that's not as true as it could be. I feel like it would never look cakey if you had moisturised or slightly normal to oily skin. I feel like for someone with dry skin, I do have to make sure I moisturise my face. Otherwise it can look powdery and quite drying, but not horrifically so. Just in kind of my pore areas where I do get a little bit drier, it can look a little bit cakey then. So I'd say heavily moisturised and make sure that you've prepped the skin and it doesn't look cakey. As far as application goes, I use the buffing brush on my right side, your left, and the sponge on my left side, your right. And I think as far as the application went, I find that the buffing brush did offer more coverage than the sponge, and the sponge definitely gave a nicer finish. So I think it's one of those foundations that I would prefer to use the buffing brush first all over the face, just to lay down that first initial layer, and then to go over the top with just the sponge just to kind of even out the complexion. I did find that the foundation did react really well with a brush. Sometimes foundations can look a little bit streaky with a buffing brush, sometimes it can leave like streaks in the foundation, whereas this one was creamy enough to really just work with both tools. So I think whatever you prefer, it will look nice either way. Some foundations don't react well with certain tools, and I'd say that this foundation definitely, it does the job and it looks nice either way, and I find that it doesn't look too dissimilar. As far as priming goes, I always apply my moisturiser all over my face because I'm a dry skin person. I do like to apply the moisturiser all over whether I use a primer or not, so I applied that all over the face, and then I applied my MUA Pro Base Banana Blur Primer on the left side of my face. I use this primer quite a lot. I find that it's not too influential on the foundation, which is why I use it. I just find that it kind of fills in any pores and just perfects the skin, so that's why I use this primer. I definitely find that this foundation looks more smoother and a bit more plump with a primer, but it doesn't look drastically different. I would suggest applying the primer on your face because I think it just makes everything look a bit more smooth. However, I don't think it's an essential. This side of my face still looks just as nice as this side of my face in the clip. Hopefully I can show it to you kind of side by side, but I think it just looks absolutely fine. Even looking at my face now, I have got the primer on one side and no primer on the other, just because that's the way I kind of finished it, and I have got it sinking into my smile lines a tiny bit. Nothing that I'm particularly bothered about. I'll just go over with my sponge and kind of just lift up the product a little bit. It doesn't bother me. I'd say that it's the sort of foundation that doesn't need a lot of effort. It doesn't need a lot of work to look nice. It just covers, it blends. However, if I really wanted to make this look the best that it did, then I would definitely apply my moisturiser, apply a tiny bit of the primer just to smooth everything out, apply it with the buffing brush, and then just perfect it with the sponge. So I would kind of use everything to make it look better, because I think it does look better when you put that little bit more effort into it. However, like I said, to make it look nice, you don't need to do much at all. Maybe just moisturise your skin if you have dry skin like me. So with that being said, I'm going to roll the clip of me wearing this foundation for the first time with primer. Okay, I'm going to have to squint a little bit because I've got afternoon sun hitting me right in the eyes, but I wanted you to see the foundation in sunlight. It's not looking great with a primer. I think it looks just a little bit cakey, especially like around my fine line areas, just places like that. It looks a little bit cakey, but overall it still looks really nice. I just think I need to try it with a different primer and also like not build up too much. I think it looks more natural when you apply it naturally rather than trying to cake it on to be full coverage, but it's still a medium coverage. I really like it, just maybe not with this primer, but it's a nice foundation so far. I'm still enjoying it, just a little bit cakey with the primer on. And now I'm going to roll the clip of me wearing this foundation with just the moisturiser. Okay, so check in. It has been, let me think, 5 hours. No, hang on, what time is it? Let me just look at my watch. It's easier. It's been 6 hours since this has been on my face. It's looking mildly cakey around my pores. My forehead looks good. Like, the shade looks good. It's just looking a little bit powdery, just like on my cheeks, but I might have applied too much, I'm not sure, but it's just looking a little bit powdery just here. Around my nose doesn't look too bad. Let me get my mirror out. It's not looking too bad. I'd say it doesn't look cakey, it just looks powdery, so it's not a terrible thing, but it's just like it shows my texture a little bit more than I'd like. But I feel like with a primer, this one would look really lovely. Like, you can see it's looking a bit powdery and textured here, but on this side it doesn't look so bad. So it's okay. I feel like with a setting spray, like if I actually made this work, it would look really nice because it actually looks in person very smooth. So I'm interested to see what it would look like with a primer and with a setting spray, because I feel like if I made it work, then this could actually be a really nice foundation. So I'm excited to try it out with a primer. I think in both of those clips I wasn't as particularly impressed by the foundation as I am now, and I think after trying out different foundations and thinking about the price and kind of thinking about the type of skin that I have, actually I think it is better now that I've tried it for a full week. But initially I was a little bit like, yeah, it's okay, but now I feel a little bit like this is a nice foundation to add to my collection and I'd happily buy a backup. So you know, that's kind of indicating that I do like this foundation. I don't think it's the best by any means. However, I think it's just a really easy foundation to just throw on for every single day. It's kind of the foundation that won't let me down because I know exactly how it works now. I just want to throw up some good points about this foundation and some bad points. So the good ones are that it blends into the skin well. It's very natural and smooth looking. I feel like my base looks quite smooth right now. It doesn't sort of go into any fine lines in my forehead, and it doesn't catch texture too much. However, I do have to put that sort of moisturiser on, just sort of blend out my base, make sure my face is prepped before I put it on. It wears nice, the packaging is really nice as well. I did say that before, I like the packaging. And I got a lot of compliments when I wore it. People would just say, oh, what's that foundation you're wearing? It looks really sort of very natural. And I was like, oh, thanks. And I also want to point out that my blush, my highlight, my contour, everything just wears really, really nicely on top of this foundation. Even around the nose, it doesn't patch off too much, which I do find a problem with some foundations. So I'd just say overall it is just like a really, really nice foundation. It's just like a no fuss foundation. The only bad points I do have on this one is that the shade range is not great. Okay, it needs to be worked on. I feel like in this day and age, foundations should be released very proportional, and in that I mean if you're going to release a smaller shade range, and I've said this and I'll say it again, if you're going to release a smaller shade range you need to make it so that everyone can roughly find something that fits them. I feel like if you're light to medium you're going to find something, if you're deep and dark you're just not, and I don't think that's acceptable in this day and age. So the shade range isn't that great. Again, I did mention this before as well, but your skin can look quite powdery, and I did mention that in one of my clips as well, is that my skin looked a little bit dry and cakey. Now, not cakey as in I've got too much makeup on, but just it looked powdery, and I think that's because I didn't moisturise very well, or I was in an aircon environment at work and the foundation just looked a little bit dry. I would highly, highly, highly recommend moisturising properly with this foundation, and if you can or you want to, hydrating with a primer as well, just because it makes it look better all day long and it just makes it look more natural. Another thing I would say about this foundation is less is more. Now I just do 2 pumps, 1 pump on this side, 1 pump on this side, kind of that's how it works for me. And I'd say that looks better. I have before, and in the clips I did as well, put a little bit too much on, and that's definitely something I've learned with using this foundation for a whole entire week, is that it blends beautifully, so you don't need to apply too much. It's better to build this foundation to the coverage you want rather than putting too much, because I find then it sinks into smile lines, it looks too cakey. So yeah, less is more, but I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but it can look quite cakey if you apply too much. So now I go on to rating this foundation. Now 1 star out of 5 is bad. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, and I just find it really unsatisfactory. 2 is it's pretty poor. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, and it was below my expectations. 3 is fair. It met my expectations and I would recommend it to you if I thought it was something that you'd like. 4 is good, and I can confidently recommend it to you, and it was above my expectations. You know, it met them and it was better than I thought it would be. And 5 is excellent. Highly recommend it. It's outstanding. Everyone needs it, and yeah, it's a highly, highly recommended foundation. So rating this foundation out of 5 stars, I would give this foundation a 4 out of 5 stars. I just think it's really, really good, and I think that actually for an everyday foundation it's really, really affordable, it's accessible. The shade range isn't fantabulous, which is why I haven't given it 5 out of 5 stars, but it's a great price. They do need to improve on the shade range, but it's just an easy everyday foundation. I can't like say any more than that really. It's medium coverage, so it's better than light, but it's not too full. Less is more with this foundation, so you won't be using it too quickly. The packaging is great so that you don't waste anything. It's like airless pump. What else? I got complimented when I wore it. Make sure you don't apply too much or don't moisturise, because then it can look a little bit powdery. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I've got to say about this foundation. It's a really, really good foundation. I definitely grew in love with this foundation the more I wore it. The first couple of times I was a bit like, what is going on? But actually, it's a pretty good foundation, and I definitely buy it again. And I would highly recommend it if you can find your shade in it. It's a pretty good 4 out of 5 star foundation. So that is it, you guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed my Foundation Nation video on the C.Y.O Long Lasting Lifeproof Foundation. If you have any other foundations that you would like me to test out for the whole week and give like a full length review, please do not forget to just pop them down below, and I can either purchase, or if I haven't got it already I can purchase it, and do a full day wear test, a full week wear test for you. So yeah, don't forget to put that down in the comments below if you do have a foundation you really want me to try out. That is it. Thank you guys for watching so much. I really do appreciate it. Thumbs up if you still enjoy these videos, as it really helps me gauge whether to carry on these sorts of videos. Hopefully you like them. I feel like I'm trying to be as in-depth as possible, so yeah, If there's definitely a foundation you want me to try out, please do not forget to comment that down below, because I'm more than happy to purchase it or do a full week review if I've already got it. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and join my little family, and ring my bell so you're notified of all the videos I upload. I upload every single week and they're never consistent, so ring that bell so that you know when I next upload. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, I really do appreciate it. You have no idea how much it means to me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye! As well with a sponge, and it... so that... as I thought I... not recommend...